Thank you very much, Andy. It is a real pleasure to be back in New Zealand. Like Andy said, this is my seventh trip. But it's extremely special right now because of the excitement of this convention. I could feel it this morning when I checked in and seeing so many familiar faces of people that have come in from all over the country. When I think about this whole concept of connecting coaches, I believe in New Zealand there couldn't be a better time. Because what I sense, even from a global aspect, when I think about in America, your sport teams, some of your sport teams are capturing the attention of sports people all over the world. And what we're looking at is, for example, with the All Blacks, and I'm sure all of you heard Steve earlier, what a phenomenal message. I call them nuggets. He gave us so many nuggets in that short period of time. And as I was listening to many of the things that Steve was saying, I was thinking even about my presentation on leadership, and you're going to see maybe different words, but it's the same concept. I sense that the country right now, with the young coaches, especially with the coaches that I'm talking with in PCA, you're energetic, you're passionate. I can feel the momentum. This is going to be, I think, just a phenomenal weekend, so let's enjoy it. One thing as coaches, we're always searching for ways to develop our athletes and teams to their full potential. But I think the key question is to understand why. Why are athletes and teams getting to that level of greatness, winning gold medals, whatever it may be? Steve mentioned it earlier about looking even outside your sport or even your profession at the best of the best. So over the course of the year of 2015, I took 4 teams, 2 world champions, 2 national champions in the States, because I wanted to determine what values are those programs built on. Because really, if you think about our leadership, the core of our leadership should be our values, our beliefs. So I'm always searching for something that I can take back so that I can do a better job as a coach, as a teacher, as a consultant. Let's look at Duke University. Duke won the 2015 NCAA Division I basketball tournament. But if you look at their core concepts, you can see them up on the screen. But I also want you to look at Mike Krzyzewski's quote, because there's a key word, and again, it was a key word that I heard about an hour and a half ago, that word trust. Look what Mike says, the single most important characteristic that a coach must have is to be trustworthy. Let's move to American football. Let's look at Ohio State University, and you can see the core concepts that they're built on. Their head coach, Urban Meyer, the culture of the Ohio State football team begins with character. Let's move into the professional ranks and the NBA world champions, the Golden State Warriors. They've won 20 consecutive games to start this season. If you're a basketball fan, I'm sure you're following this, but they won the championship last spring. Look at the words they have. And then Steve Kerr has a very interesting quote. You have to remember about Steve is this: he has 8 world championship rings as a player as an assistant coach, and now as a head coach of Golden State. But he said coaching is 90% creating the right culture and 10% strategy. You take those four, or you take those three, and the whole concept of people, it's getting back to the people, and then now you look at the All Blacks, and what I'd like you to do is just turn and share your perception. We heard Steve this morning, but I'm sure all of you had your information that you've seen all through the years since you were quite young as far as why the All Blacks win. Let's take a few minutes and do that. Exchange your ideas. Why do the All Blacks win? Okay, if I could have your attention, I love the discussion, and we'll have more discussion throughout this session. One of the hardest things in sport is to create a dynasty. So when you think about it, and that's why my interest in the All Blacks is so great, and I think it's part of a New Zealander's DNA. It's your team. And if we look at some of the key things that I feel as an outsider looking at it, you can look at that list of different phrases that the All Blacks use, the concepts. But then if you look at the foundation, it truly is values-based. There's a culture that is purpose-driven. There's three key points that I got out of a book that I really enjoyed. I talk about it all the time in the States when I do presentations and workshops, and it's Legacy by James Kerr. But the first point, it's character triumphs over talent. We all know that. We've seen very talented athletes throughout our careers that haven't been that successful. We've seen very talented teams that just don't quite seem to be able to win on the scoreboard. Somehow the All Blacks attach the player's personal meaning to something much greater. I mean, that jersey, it's a sacred object. There's a special feel when you put that on. There's a responsibility, not just to your teammates, but to a nation. And what I really feel is a key aspect of it, they're always looking for ways to get better. They have something, of course, that's called a growth mindset. And that's why you're all here this weekend. You're trying to find certain things that will fit into your coaching philosophy that will help you become a better coach so you can be a better connector with your athletes. Let's look at it now beyond the 4 championship teams that I just talked about. Let's look at it from a perspective of, do the best leaders and teams have common traits? Andy mentioned that I was the director of competitive sports at the United States Military Academy at West Point, and we pride ourselves in being outstanding in leadership development and character development. My leader team and I wanted to see if we could find a way to narrow it down. What are the most important common traits, characteristics? And we looked at not only sport, we looked at military units, we looked at outstanding leaders in business. We were able to narrow it down to 5. And we call these the principles of greatness. And the 5, the first one is the best of the best are trustworthy. The best of the best, they know what they want, and they pursue it with a sense of purpose, passion, and dedication. The third, the best of the best, they believe in themselves and their teammates. The fourth, they're mentally tough and they're focused. And the fifth one I think is really special because they have a way of making everyone around them better. Even as I listened to Steve and with the All Blacks, maybe different words, there's such a similarity. And I think that's very true. And I would have you to think right now, think about the teams or the athletes that you're coaching. And how are you getting these things across to them? Right now, I'm very fortunate. I'm in a pilot study that is based on these principles of greatness in the Auckland area, and we just finished with year one. We had 4 secondary schools. Now the funding has been continued by Active and Sport New Zealand, and we're going on with our second year and adding more schools. But we had a special celebration last night, and we had student athletes, we had school administrators, school leaders, and just listening to the different stories and the connections, it's amazing that when you work with people and you're trying to develop them rather than being so focused on the outcome, the final score, develop the people that are producing the points. Because what you're ending up doing is winning, increasing your chances to not only win on the scoreboard, but you're winning beyond the scoreboard, which is really the most important aspect of it. With that same study that I mentioned that we did at West Point, there were 5 essential behaviors of championship teams: the trust, the belief, the mental toughness, accountability, and a sense of community or family. Here is the key, though, the point of difference, because we're always looking at that. Okay, fine. Probably all of us are trying to accomplish those 5 essential behaviors. But truly, what is the difference maker? And what we found out, there were 2 areas. And it's great coaches develop their players in both of these areas: leader development and also character development. So with that, I just think about it. Think about what you're doing right now, because it all goes down to our beliefs. And when I think about my core beliefs as far as leadership development through sport, you can read over on the screen what they are, but I truly believe that they're probably, this could be the best venue to teach leadership. You can read about leadership all you want, but to get the practical experiences that our students and our athletes are getting, we truly believe when we look at everyone as a leader. For years in America, we just talked about leaders as the team captains. What was really a difference maker for me in my coaching career is helping players, the younger players, understand that leadership is not a title, it's a role that everyone plays. With the leadership roles, I like to look at the 4 leadership roles as, number 1, being a self-leader, which everyone has to be. And before you can lead others, you have to be able to lead yourself. A follower. You may think, well, a follower, how can a follower be a leader? Actually, the very first year at the United States Military Academy was designed on helping cadets learn self-leadership, and the importance of followership. We're all followers. I don't care what position that you have. There's someone that you report to. And it's very important that people understand what that role is in order to have teams that have that united approach for common goals. Then you have peer leaders, and then you have your designated leaders. But if you start this early enough, by the time your athletes get up to the point of being a designated leader, they are so much more effective with their leadership skills. Let's think about how we develop leaders. With the self-leadership, we start with self-awareness. Very first thing is the self-awareness and trying to help athletes or young people learn about themselves. Even simple things, I love asking someone, give me your 3 greatest strengths. We call these signature strengths. As a coach, instead of telling someone the areas that they need to improve in, which are vital, find out what they think. What are their greatest strengths? Because you can connect with people quicker when they start thinking about themselves as being successful. I try to ask questions such as the 3 greatest experiences in your sport career. Ask an athlete sometime, 3 best games they ever played. Wow. People like to talk about things like that, and they should. Because I want them thinking about those positive events. I don't want them thinking and dwelling on their mistakes. We call those MOEs, moments of excellence. And I want players, when I talk, I'm working right now with the University of Minnesota women's football, soccer team. And these are the first things that we do with our athletes, because we want them to feel so strong that when we get to that point where we're working on weaknesses or when things aren't going the way that they want to go, they're strong enough to know, I am good. And I am good because of this, this, and this. You can see there's 8 things that we try to work with young players as far as self-leadership. The second area is relationships, and that's just their communication with people, with their teammates, with teachers, with coaches, how they communicate, their body language. Then we talk about an area we call team contributions. Now we've taken it a little bit further than just themselves. Now they've got these relationships, but now how are they contributing to the team? Through their actions, through their attitude, which they have total control over, their alignment. We talked about alignment earlier this afternoon. We want our players to be aligned with our team's core values, the vision, the purpose, the standards, the goals. We need everyone headed in the right direction. And the last thing is the whole concept of accountability. Mike Krzyzewski said it's the last piece before a team becomes great is peer accountability. I truly believe it. I think that's why there's so few great teams. That's why there's so few dynasties. The accountability to become great needs to come from the internal players, the internal leaders that take ownership of it. Turn and share your thoughts now concerning about how in your program do you develop leaders? I know you'll have breakout sessions, and I would love to be involved and listen to different things that you're doing, because to me, this is such an important aspect as far as having teams of greatness, teams of significance, whatever you want to call it, or athletes of greatness. Because they truly, when it comes right down to it, as much as we want them to become great, it has to come from them. It comes from within. And what I've found is throughout my career, if I have the opportunity to get an athlete away from their peers and develop mutual respect and trust, that athlete will tell me how much they want to be great. I've never met anyone that didn't want to be special, didn't want to be great. But what I've found is that they don't right now have enough tools to be able to do it, or the mindset. And that's where I think we come in as coaches and as sport leaders, finding ways to reach them, to connect with them, so that suddenly they can take that next step and be on that journey toward greatness. Let's look at character development. And I hope that all of you, both in the leadership area and the character area, have very strong beliefs. I'm sure you do. I wonder, have you written them down? Because I think it's important. Because the beliefs, your beliefs will drive your actions. And actions do what? The behaviors produce results. So if you think about it, beliefs are very, very powerful. My beliefs as far as character development in sport is that sport by itself does not build character. Years ago when I was a youth, adults would always say to me, "Oh, you play sport. It builds character." We have a lot of examples almost every day in our newspaper of someone that plays sport that is not behaving the way that we would say would be good character. Sport reveals character. I believe that the best coaches intentionally teach character through sport. When I say that, it's an integral part of their program. I don't want you to think, well, oh, they have a 10-minute session during the training that they teach character. No, it's what we do every single day. There are two types of character. There's moral character, which is the honesty piece of it, and when we talk about integrity, honesty, moral character. There's another type of character that I'm going to talk a little bit more in a couple minutes, which is, we call it performance character. Performance character are those qualities or traits that help you be successful in a specific environment, whether it's sport, school, at work. Right now, what I'd like you to do is take a couple minutes, look at the list of words that I have up on the screen. I want you to select 3 words that best describes your team, or you could look at it and say the 3 best words that describe your coaching philosophy. This is what you're striving for. After you've selected the 3 words, then get with your partner in the small group again and explain why. Why did you select those words? Okay, if I could have your attention one more time, please. The words that are up on that screen is they're examples of words that we call performance character. Very often, as I talk to coaches about character development in sport, there's a group of coaches that right away will say, character development, that's someone else's job. That's not mine. And my beliefs are, I feel that coaches are some of the best teachers of character. And I never try to debate it with a coach. When someone tells me, okay, my 3 strongest assets or my team's identity is this, this, and this, most coaches, the things they take pride in, they'll talk about their resilience, their toughness, their drive, determination. Sure, the integrity piece is a must. I'm not downplaying that, but a lot of times coaches overlook the fact that what you're doing in these areas, those are life lessons that truly will impact someone's life. We use the word grit, and grit is defined as the passion and perseverance for long-term goals. And at the academy at West Point, we wanted to determine what is the most important factor as far as why a cadet is able to make it through 4 very, very hard and rigorous years. We have 12,000 applicants every year, and these students academically could get into Harvard, Yale. We only take 1,200. It's a tough 4 years, physically, mentally. We studied all these different factors: IQ, physical fitness, all these different things, and it came down to the most important reason was grit. It was the ability to just keep going on. Every time you get knocked down, you're able to get back up and not lose sight of what your desired end state is, and at the same time, have that enthusiasm, that sense of passion. I think that's one of the greatest strengths as far as when I think of New Zealand, a word that I think of is resilience. I hope that as coaches, as parents, that you're continuing to teach resilience to the younger generation. We've gotten away a little bit in America. A lot of times my things that I'm working with is a sense of entitlement with our athletes. At a very early age, we identify them. They get on this track where they start thinking they are so good, and they are very good, but we're lacking teaching them that importance of just being able to understand that life is difficult, that you aren't special, a special person. You may have some special talents, but you have to learn how to be mentally and physically tough. And when I think about mental toughness and physical toughness, before you can let's say you get knocked down in the ring, it's the mental toughness that tells you to get back up. Physically, yeah, you'll get up, but it begins with having mental toughness, and that's why we emphasize it so much in everything that we do. How do you do that in your sports? If you agree with me, let's say that resilience, mental toughness, intensity, in your sport, how do you teach that? Because I agree, it is important, but an athlete just can't say, well, I put the jersey on today, so I'm going to press a button, and now today I'm going to be mentally tough because it's game day. It's a skill that you have to practice every single day. And that's up to us. We're the leaders. How are we getting that across? I think I mentioned to you, I was a men's basketball coach, and different ways. When we had, with the mental toughness piece of it, one of our key concepts that we drilled home with our players, and they became very proud of it, was all loose balls are ours. Well, those are words. How are you going to turn those into actions? You're going to turn them into actions by repetition, by letting them know what right looks like, and definitely reinforcing it. Our players knew that we call them 50-50 balls. There's a loose ball, and an opponent or you have a chance of 50-50. We charted it. We needed to get 70% of all 50-50 balls. Defensively, a huge thing. 4 consecutive stops. Oh, that's a mindset. 4 consecutive stops. In the game of basketball, if you can stop your opponent from scoring 4 consecutive times and you get the ball, and you just increase your chances of winning. And we would chart how many times during a course of a game that we could get 4 consecutive stops. Our players took pride in it. You know what they ended up doing? Wow, the bench would be yelling, okay, that's 2, that's 2. The defense would even get that much tougher. It was our identity. It's little things like that, all these different things. I call them the intangibles. The intangibles is what I believe is the difference in taking a team that has a decent talent, but maybe not the best talent. That's that competitive edge. Here's a list of the performance character words that you can see that we have. All of this end up going into building cultures. One of the most important things that you do every day, and I think that in our country at least, our young coaches are not getting enough help or education on how to build cultures. It's a word that we see all the time. There's hundreds of books written with the word culture on it. But when you think about culture, there's 3 moving pieces. You have people, you have structure, and you have process. Great coaches are able to align all 3. They have all 3 in harmony. And it starts with people. Because it's the people that make the structure and the process work. As you continue to develop as coaches, never underestimate culture, because it's your culture that produces results, and you are the one that's developing the culture. A team will have a culture no matter what. Either you can take control of it and have it according to what your philosophy is, or it just happens by chance. And unfortunately, I see in a lot of situations, it just happens by chance. In closing, I would first of all say, hey, thank you for coming. This is something I've been looking forward to for months. And to me, this is a phenomenal experience for all of us. I'm looking forward to attending as many things as I can before I leave on Sunday. I wish all of you the very best. To me, There is nothing greater than being in a room full of coaches. Good luck, and I hope to see you on my next trip to New Zealand.